History is often written by numbers, by the size of armies and the scale of empires. But there are rare moments when numbers fail to explain what truly happened. And this is one of those moments. A moment when 10,000 Greek warriors stood their ground against 25,000 Persians and proved that courage, discipline, and strategy could outweigh sheer force. At the height of its power, the Persian Empire stretched across vast lands, ruling through fear, wealth, and an army that seemed endless. An army made of soldiers from many nations who believed resistance was pointless and defeat was inevitable for anyone who stood in their way. And as Persia pushed toward Greece, city after city across the ancient world had already fallen, reinforcing the belief that the empire could not be stopped. Greece, however, was not a single united nation, but a fractured land of independent city-states, often divided by rivalry and pride. Yet when faced with the threat of Persian domination, these divisions were set aside, because the Greeks understood that surrender meant the loss of freedom, identity, and the right to govern themselves. From this realization emerged an army of 10,000 hoplites, not professional conquerors, but ordinary citizens, farmers, craftsmen, and fathers who took up arms to defend their homes, wearing heavy bronze armor, carrying long spears and large, round shields, and standing shoulder to shoulder in disciplined formations that had been perfected over generations. Across the battlefield stood the Persian force, 25,000 strong, confident, experienced, and supported by archers and cavalry. Believing that their superior numbers would quickly overwhelm the Greeks, yet what they failed to understand was that Greek warfare was not built on speed or individual heroics, but on unity, structure, and absolute trust between soldiers. The Greek phalanx was a living wall of shields and spears, where each man protected the next, where breaking formation meant death and holding the line meant survival. And as the battle began, Persian arrows filled the sky, striking shields and armor, cutting down some Greeks, but failing to break their resolve. And instead of retreating, the Greeks advanced steadily, their formation unshaken, pushing into the Persian ranks with relentless precision. Terrain played a crucial role. The Greeks deliberately chose ground that limited the Persians' ability to use their numbers, restricting cavalry movement and forcing the fight into close combat, where heavy armor and long spears gave the Greeks a decisive advantage. And time after time, Persian assaults crashed against the phalanx, only to be as repelled by disciplined spear thrusts and shield pressure. Hours passed as the battlefield turned chaotic, bodies piled high, the air filled with dust and the sound of clashing metal. Yet the Greek line held, adapting to each attack, shifting formations, exploiting weaknesses, and slowly draining the strength and morale of their enemy. What began as Persian confidence gradually turned into confusion, as soldiers who had never faced such resistance realized that this enemy would not break, would not flee, and would not surrender. And as casualties mounted, Persian coordination faltered, commands were lost in the noise of battle, and individual units began to fight without cohesion. The Greeks, though exhausted and outnumbered, continued to fight as one, pressing forward whenever a weakness appeared, turning Persian speed into panic and their numerical advantage into a liability, until finally the psychological breaking point was reached and the once unstoppable Persian force began to retreat. A retreat that quickly turned into disorder as fear spread through the ranks. Against all expectations, the Greeks stood victorious, at a heavy cost, but with a result that echoed far beyond the battlefield, shattering the myth of Persian invincibility and proving that empires could be challenged and defeated by disciplined resistance. This victory was not just a military success, but a psychological turning point that inspired future Greek resistance and reshaped the balance of power in the ancient world, sending a message that freedom could be defended and that unity could overcome even the greatest odds. 10,000 Greeks did more than stop 25,000 Persians. It changed the course of history and left behind a legacy that endures to this day. A reminder that true power does not always belong to the largest army, but to those who know why they fight and are willing to stand together no matter the cost.